All right, hey, it's Sam here. We are mid-morning on Thursday, December 21st. Had a request from a member to take a look at TRON, symbol TRX, to Bitcoin. Now, let's go over here and have a look at it, see where I like to get a handle on the project. So this is the CoinGecko scale, and you can see here where I always suggest that you look for coins at a score of 50 or higher. Well, we're sitting here at 48. And the reason for that was a couple of things you can see. One, it's a relatively new project, but look at this. It's got a market cap of 3.3 billion, so a fast grower. Seems to be low interest here amongst developers, which is surprising considering how successful they've been raising capital so far. You can see the vast majority of the trading is in Bitcoin, 76%, but then a good amount in Ether as well. All of the trading here, the vast majority of it is on Binance to Bitcoin, but here you see on Binance as well to Ethereum, which is kind of interesting. So because it's on Binance and TradingView doesn't, for some reason, they're not offering Binance data, at least not yet. So I'm looking over here on Coinigy where we can look at the same format because they use TradingView. So we can look at it here. So here it is. It's pretty straightforward. It's not complicated. So I mean, you can see here because let me get it. So here's where we start. So you can see it's a relatively new coin. We get a little pop on the open and then just the long sideways. And now for whatever reason we're getting the first impulsive wave. So all I've done here is just mark off this low here. That's the lowest low I can pull from, and this is where our impulse starts from. So very easy to spot it here. This is pretty rudimentary. So we can see here. Well, here's our 1. We get a little ABC into our 2. Up for the 3, down for the 4. We get a little bit beyond the 233, but the wave 1 is not breached, so we can be confident that we have an impulsive wave starting here. I'd also, of course, want to put a pitchfork on this, so I might start looking here up to my 3 and my 4 and my 5, if I can get that on there. So that's kind of interesting to me. So given that nice geometry as well, so it looks like we've got very technical trading. So now you look at that and you go, okay, well, that potentially now we have a completed 5-wave structure. So if that is complete, then the approach would be to be an expectation that we now correct that and set up a second wave on the assumption that this is our first impulsive wave. So trying to get that right on that. Now, so of course it's kind of interesting here. So we come right to the median line, and we seem to be getting some support here, at least so far. Let me get that just dialed in, so I'm right on it. Let's get right on that. Get that here, and let me get that wicked off just so we can take a look at that. Same thing down here. Get it right on the pivot. There we go. Okay, let's pull back out. So you can see here we come down. So prior resistance offering a little support, but we're also at the 38.2. Now, in very strong markets, occasionally you will see a wave 2 only retrace to the 38. It is only 12% of the time statistically. So it's I would not necessarily be jumping on that, even though you've got a good technical setup here. Because you can see we've got a little ABC. We're to the 38, right to the prior support. Now that could very well, just rip from here. Nothing that says that it couldn't. This would be a reasonable spot, and we go up. Now, if that's going to go up again, then we're considering potentially relabeling. Maybe the 5 gets another leg up, and this ends up being the 3 of 5. That certainly is a possibility. With this correction here, because that's a 3-wave structure, we're correcting this move, but it's possible that this is. This is prone to be relabeled. It certainly has good structure and good symmetry, as I often talk about. That there's good symmetry in that wave structure but in terms of time and price relationships. So I would be, now this is what I would prefer to see. So if I were looking for the next opportunity, because I want to try and trade with the higher probabilities, even though I do know that, again, 12% of the time we can see a wave 2 only go to the 382. That would surprise me here if we're going to just only get the 38 in the wave 2. Now, it could just be the project is so hot that you got impatient buyers, and they're going to buy it off of this support here, and the algos will kick in at the median line. I think what's more likely is that we have an ABC into an A wave. So the expectation here now would be to look for some confirmation to get a sense of how strong that low is. So if we're going to go up here knowing that a B wave can go anywhere from the 50 to the 786 and often does, what I'd be looking for is more of this kind of action. I'd want to see it come up here, test that resistance, see how strong it is. If it blows through it, well, then I've got to reevaluate. Then perhaps, as I said, my 5 goes up here. That becomes the 3 of this leg. And at that point, then I'm waiting for my next pullback to try and get a retracement, perhaps down to the median line, on the assumption that I get a 1-2. Sorry. So given that, I would be more inclined to see what kind of reaction we get there, because we're likely to bump into some resistance up here, because it's always a fib fight. Right? So we have the 382 here. We know algos will be likely buyers down here. But if indeed we're going to come up here and get some resistance there, and we end up with better symmetry here for an ABC, then we might be looking for something like that, where we get the algo target. If indeed it may pivot here at the 50, we may go to the 618. We don't know. And it may just keep going down here. We just can't be sure about anything that we're seeing. So we just lay out a potential roadmap. So that, certainly if you're very bullish about the project, that's not an unreasonable place to buy it. If you're just looking to allocate funds to where you see the highest probability trades, I would say that's not your play, because you're only at a 12%. You're at a 38.2 for a wave 2 occurs only 12% of the time. So it wouldn't be a trade that I would look for, but I would certainly be alerted to this, looking for this potential roadmap here. And then down here, then I really like it. Take a little different here on. So this I do like. So if I were to see this path, I'm all over it there. That looks very reasonable to me. Then see, on the assumption there, we'd be anticipating this. So then we're working on the assumption that from that low that we had back here, that we've got a complete 1 wave, and now we're playing for the 2. So we'd be looking for from here to the 1 wave to the 2 wave, looking for 3, 4, 5. Let me change that color so you get the idea here. So again, it's waves within waves. So if I take that up, we'd have a completed 1 wave, right? Again, it's potential roadmap here. Here's our 2, where we have a higher probability zone between the 50 and the 618. So that we have this structure here, so that might get me interested depending on the reaction. And then again, I'm hypothesizing here, if we're going to go up and bump into some resistance here for a potential B wave, then from there, that algo target is down here, where we get a confluence zone. So we get the algo target at negative 23.6. We've got the 50, which creates higher probability zone for an entry on a 2. We've got the upper sloping median line, and then my guess would be, as this moves along, we'll have the Vegas wave meeting right here as well. So that's where I see the opportunity. But note that if we see that, and again, we're hypothetical here, the upside is enormous. So if we can get that kind of action, right? There's the first target here is the negative 23 from this 50. But if that's going to be a true third wave, I mean, we're talking much higher prices for that third. If we look at that wave relationship from the length of that 1 wave, if we do come down here for a 2, and it could go deeper, but wherever we put our pivot in for a second, then projecting up to the 1618 of the length of the 1, well, that means much higher prices for TRON. So one to be watching. I think it's a little soon to be a buyer there, unless you just love the project and you're willing to should we see this happen and you're willing to just add down here because you want to get, maybe averaging down your price. I wouldn't ride it down too much. You got to at some point say enough. So that's about as far as you could possibly get it. That's your 786 for a potential deep second wave, but you know, I'd be more inclined if I were going to give it plenty of room. I wouldn't go too far beyond the 65. You know, you're starting to break the structure there. So that's what I see there. It looks like a good project, one to have on your radar, and we'll see how it unfolds. Okay, that's it for now.